To show my appreciation for your support. Thank you, DJs. I came in the door, dripped in Balenciaga.
What's up, y'all? Welcome back to the ZayMoolaSportsPodcast. I'm your host, Isaiah, and the Milwaukee Bucks sent shockwaves through the NBA on day 2 of free agency as they have signed former Pacers center Myles Turner to a 4-year, $107 million deal. But in order for them to sign him, they had to waive Damian Lillard. And wow, y'all. I was not expecting this to happen at all. I thought that Myles Turner was going to re-sign with the Pacers and be a Pacer for life. But instead, they allowed him to leave and sign with the Milwaukee Bucks. So first, let's discuss Myles Turner and what this means for the Pacers and Bucks. And then we will discuss Damian Lillard and what his future holds. So without further ado, let's get straight into it. So the Indiana Pacers are notorious for being a cheap franchise. Anyone that's covered the NBA, anyone that's watched the NBA for a number of years knows that the Pacers are a very cheap franchise. This is a big part of the reason, y'all, that back in 2017, Paul George wanted out because he felt like they weren't being aggressive enough in terms of building and constructing a championship level roster. But we thought that things were going to be different this time around because the Pacers management came out, y'all, and stated that they will be willing to enter the luxury tax to keep this team together, not just for next season, but for years to come. Remember, this is a Pacers team, y'all, that just made it to the finals, that was one game away from winning the finals. And if Tyrese Halliburton did not tear his Achilles in Game 7, they might be the defending NBA champions right now. So we just thought that they were going to bring this core together, back together, keep them intact. Yes, Tyrese Halliburton tore his Achilles, and he's probably going to miss all of next season. But if you had a team of Pascal Siakam, Andrew Nembhard, Aaron Nesmith, TJ McConnell, Obi Toppin, Ben Mathurin, and Myles Turner, we felt like, y'all, that they could still be a pretty good team in the Eastern Conference, still be a playoff contending team. But instead, y'all, they went back to their old ways. And let's be honest, the Pacers flat out lied to everyone, and they stabbed Myles Turner in his back. Myles Turner had been there since 2015. He was the heart and soul of that franchise. He had been there through the good times. He had been there through the bad times. Think about how many times, y'all, that his name was mentioned in trade rumors. He never pouted. He never complained. He was a professional. He went out there on a night-in, night-out basis, played his tail off, was one of the best two-way centers in the league, and did everything he could to help his team win games. And this is how they repay him, y'all. I am very disgusted by the Pacers management right now because this is absolutely ridiculous. This contract, y'all, should have been done, honestly, a week ago. They should have had this already signed, sealed, delivered. A 4-year, $107 million deal for Myles Turner, that's a great contract. They felt like that was an overpay. They weren't willing to pay him that. According to Ramon and Shelburne, y'all, Myles Turner wanted to remain in Indiana. Okay, he wanted to be a Pacer for life. But their offers were not up to snuff with what the Milwaukee Bucks ended up offering him. But really, a 4-year, $107 million deal? Y'all, Jakob Poeltl just got a 4-year, $104 million deal. And no disrespect to Jakob Poeltl, but Myles Turner is definitely a better player than Jakob Poeltl has ever been. So the fact that the Indiana Pacers were not willing to give Myles Turner, basically $26 million a year, again, y'all, a guy that has done so much for their organization and their franchise, I just don't understand this at all. And I feel really bad for Myles Turner, and I feel bad for his now former teammates. Because if I'm Pascal Siakam, I'm looking like, well, wow, what does this mean for me? Now, I'm not saying that the Pacers are going to trade Pascal Siakam. But if you just saw the way they disrespected Myles Turner, Pascal Siakam has to be taken. I hadn't even been here as many years as Myles Turner has. So will I be next? Will they end up not giving me my money, not paying me what I'm worth? And Tyrese Halliburton has to really be disgusted by this, y'all, because him and Myles Turner had a really great connection. I mean, that pick and roll game between those two guys was absolutely phenomenal. And so now he doesn't have that any longer. And now the Pacers have a big void at that center spot because Myles Turner held it down for the last 10 years. But now you don't have that anymore. And this is just not a good look, y'all. It doesn't send a good, message to your fan base. You were one game away from winning the NBA Finals. And now 2 weeks later, you let a guy go that was the heart and soul of your franchise because you weren't willing to pay the luxury tax, even though you said you were? I just don't get this, y'all. And the Pacers right now just look horrible. I mean, that organization looks absolutely horrible. They did not put their money where their mouth was, like they said they would. And y'all, we got fooled. We were tricked because when Shams Charania reported that the Pacers were willing to go into the luxury tax to keep their team together, I believed it. I was like, yay, the Pacers have finally, gone away from their cheap ways. They're willing to pay, big time money to keep a team together that almost won the NBA Finals. And I was like, yeah, this is exactly what they should do. But instead, y'all, they fooled us, man. We should have known the Pacers weren't going to do this. Because when you look at their track record, they've never been willing to spend big time money on their team. Even when they've had really good teams, they've never been willing to do this. And they've done it again. And to make matters worse, y'all, not only did they allow Myles Turner to leave, but they allowed him to go to the Milwaukee Bucks of all teams. A team that has become like their arch rival. A team, y'all, that the last 2 years in the playoffs, they have eliminated. Right? And now you allow Myles Turner to go to that team, that franchise? Wow, this is just a really, really, really bad look for the Pacers franchise. I know a lot of Pacers fans are extremely upset. If you go on Twitter right now, man, they're just incredibly frustrated, and I don't blame them. They thought that they were going to be able to retain Myles Turner because that's what they were told. But instead, y'all, it was a flat-out lie. And like I said, Myles Turner got stabbed in his back. And I hope that next year, when the Bucks go up against the Pacers, Myles Turner just goes out there and has some amazing performances, y'all. I hope he gives it to the Pacers, honestly. Because that's what they deserve right now. This made 0 sense. You were one game away from winning the NBA championship. And what they're probably going to do, y'all, they're going to blame it on Tyrese Halliburton's injury. They're probably going to say, well, if Tyrese, if he was healthy, we would have retained Myles Turner. No, I don't want to hear that. Regardless of Tyrese being healthy or not being healthy, they should have re-signed Myles Turner, especially for this deal, y'all. Because honestly, I thought he was going to get more than this. I thought Myles Turner was going to get 30 to 35 million. But only getting 26 million a year for his talent, that's a steal. So Pacers, man, y'all got a lot of explaining to do because this is horrible. Before the Milwaukee Bucks, y'all, I absolutely love this because Myles Turner is one of the best two-way centers in the league. He can hit some threes. He's a stretch five. He's a really good defender, great shot blocker. He's a great teammate, y'all. And now the Bucks replaced him, now he's replaced Brook Lopez. So they get significantly younger, right? Myles Turner's only 29. Brook Lopez is 37, so they get 8 years younger at the center spot, which we know that the Milwaukee Bucks, they need to get younger. They need to get more athletic. They need to get some more defense on their team, and that's what they just got in Myles Turner. So for the Bucks, y'all, I love this for them. I mean, I really do. Myles Turner is an upgrade over Brook Lopez. I think he's going to be a nice fit next to Giannis Antetokounmpo. Before the Indiana Pacers, man, they look like straight up fools, y'all. But with that being said, let's discuss Damian Lillard and what his future holds. So the Damian Lillard era is over in Milwaukee, and it ends in disappointment because when they acquired him, they thought they were going to be championship contenders for years to come, but instead they never even won a playoff series, let alone win the NBA Finals. So this was a pretty big failure, y'all. Not necessarily on Dame's part because I thought Dame played extremely well. I just didn't think that the infrastructure was right. They had Adrian Griffin as head coach, but then they fired him last season, midway through the season. Then they brought in Doc Rivers, but that wasn't a big upgrade because they really were the same team with Adrian Griffin as they were with Doc Rivers. And then, the roster was kind of imperfect. They didn't have a lot of defense. They didn't have a lot of athleticism. And so, again, I didn't really feel like it was on Dame as to why they didn't have a success that they thought they should have had because Dame did his job. Giannis obviously did his job. And they worked pretty well together, y'all. But it was just other reasons why this was not the perfect fit that many of us thought it would be. And so now the Bucks have went their separate ways, y'all. Now, here's the thing, though. Chris Haynes reported that Giannis is not happy with the Bucks deciding to waive Dame. So that's going to be something to, keep our eye out on because obviously the Bucks, their number one goal, their ultimate goal is to keep Giannis happy. So if Giannis is not happy about this transaction, that could cause some friction within, their organization. But we'll see how that plays out. But nevertheless, y'all, Damian Lillard is now a free agent, and I think there's definitely going to be some teams that are going to be interested in his services. Now, we know that Dame is, right now rehabbing for his torn Achilles that he suffered back in April, and he is 35 years old. And normally, when an older player suffers a major injury like this, he is not able to bounce back. I still think Dame is going to be a pretty good player after, he comes back from this Achilles injury. I'm not saying he's going to be, the old Damian Lillard, but I still think he's going to be a really good player. He's still a really good shooter, still a really good shot creator, one of the best shot takers in the NBA. So I think he's still going to be a very effective player, y'all. But right now, when you look at the point guard market, it's not great because there's a lot of teams that really don't need point guards. The only teams that you could say really need help at the point guard position would potentially be like the Boston Celtics. You could maybe say the Orlando Magic still, but they did sign Tyus Jones yesterday. And then really the Miami Heat. But outside of those teams, everyone else, already has, pretty good stability at the point guard spot. But, y'all, I do think there's going to still be some teams that are interested in Dame. And one of the teams that I just mentioned, I'm going to briefly speak about them. It's the Miami Heat. We remember a couple of years ago, the Heat were very interested in trading for Dame. But unfortunately, they were not able to get the trade to go through. And one has to wonder, would they still be interested in him 2 years later? Because right now, y'all, when you look at the Heat, obviously you have Bam Adebayo and Tyler Hero as your franchise players. But outside of those two guys, this roster is not very good. Now, they did re-sign Davion Mitchell. I like that. They drafted Kaspersky Yakusondis, which I also like. But there's just not a lot to get excited about when you look at this Heat roster, y'all. This is a very thin roster, not that deep. Don't have a lot of shooting, not a lot of defense on it. But Damian Lillard will give them that third star to pair with Tyler Hero and Bam Adebayo. And one thing we know about Pat Riley, y'all, he loves to go after big name guys. And Damian Lillard is a big name guy. He's obviously going to be a future Hall of Famer. So if the Heat are still interested in Dame, I think he would be interested in them. We know that Dame has said that he loves the city of Miami, that he really wanted to get traded there a couple of years ago. And I think if he's still interested, the Heat should sign him to maybe a 1 or 2 year deal. The problem is, though, y'all, even with Dame, I don't think they would be championship contenders, but at least their fan base could have something to get excited about. Because, again, right now, when you look at this current Heat roster, it's just not a lot to get excited about outside of Tyler Hero and Bam Adebayo. And also Khalil Ware. I forgot to mention Khalil Ware. He had a really good rookie season, but it's just not a lot to get excited about. Not a lot, to get hyped about. But if they're able to bring in Dame, I think, it kind of get their franchise going back in the right direction. And then, y'all, the second and last team that I think is going to be interested in Dame is actually his old team. How about the Portland Trailblazers? I know some people are going to be surprised by that because the Trailblazers are kind of in rebuild mode. Even though, y'all, last season, man, the second half of the season, the Blazers were one of the best teams in the NBA. So I think they're going to be a sneaky playoff contender in the Western Conference. And I know that they already, last week they traded for Drew Holiday. They already have, Scoot Henderson and Shaedon Sharpe on the roster as well. So they have a logjam at the guard spot. But we know that Dame is probably the best Portland Trailblazer ever. And he still, has a home there in Portland. He still really, loves the city. So if they want him back, I think Dame would definitely be interested in the Blazers. So really, y'all, I look at those two teams, the Miami Heat and the Portland Trail Blazers. Like I said, the Celtics, yes, they do need a point guard because there's a good chance that they're going to trade Anthony Simons, but I just don't see them signing Dame. So really the two teams to me, again, the Miami Heat and the Portland Trail Blazers are probably going to be the teams that are interested in Damian Lillard, y'all. But we're going to see what happens. And, man, this is a very surprising day. Who would have thought that the Pacers would have let Myles Turner go to the Milwaukee Bucks, and then in turn, y'all, the Bucks would have waived Damian Lillard? Yeah, no one saw that coming, but hey, it's the NBA. You always know crazy things can happen during the NBA free agency, and we just saw it happen today. So there I have it, man. That was my take on the Myles Turner and Damian Lillard transaction. Remember, y'all, last good message of what? Make sure you get your daily dose. I know I'm the enemy. I love y'all. God bless. Peace.